So this chapter 8 is about portals, and portals are basically just ways for us to move through different worlds, through different virtual reality environments. So they give us like a magical way of jumping to a different location. Uh, one warning also here up front, it's not really a very important thing, but you may notice this in the examples and you may find it strange. But actually the latest version of A-Frame has a small bug in portals. So I'll use an earlier version that doesn't have this bug. And I'll explain the bug when we move through, because actually in some situations the bug is actually not present, so we can use the latest version. But in this chapter, because I want to go through everything in detail, the examples will make use or should make use of this version 0.8.2. Okay, so if you see, if you open an example in this chapter and you look at the script at the top of the file and you see a different version from this, then just replace that. Otherwise, the portal might not work very well. And I'll explain in a minute what the bug is. So basically, so portals allow us to jump through different environments or different files, different A-frame files, HTML files. And they actually work in a very similar way to links in standard web pages. And the element that A-frame uses to represent a portal is actually called a link. Okay, so another primitive, and we, of course, the link in A-frame needs to be a visual thing positioned in 3D space so that the user that is moving through your environment can tell where the portal is and he can choose to activate that portal. So it has a position, but then it has, like the anchor element in HTML, it has this href attribute to tell the portal where we want users to be transported to when they go through the portal, when they click on the portal. So this is basically a URL. We can also give it a title, and the title is simply text that by default will appear on top of the visual representation of the portal so that users know where that portal leads to. And this is the default. I'll open this first example here, and you'll see that this is the default representation for a portal. So it's a circle, as you see here, with a white border and then a line of text on top. So this is the portal, and the rest of the objects are just some scene objects that I added to the scene. I'll open the source code. Notice here, if you open this example on your version, I'm not sure if this version is was correct at the time that you made your copy of the A-frame course. So you can check, please check this value and make sure it's 0.8.2. Otherwise, the link will have a bug that I'll explain in a minute. So I'll just open this on a new tab. And so this example is actually made of more than one HTML file, because now that we have portals, we want to go to a different file. So when we click on the portal, on the circle that represents the portal, we will be taken to a different environment. So you notice that the browser changed the address here and it loaded a different example, a different environment. So you see it's very similar to the first one, but now instead of boxes, we have spheres, and we have a portal back to the first environment on the right side now. So we can go back and forth between these two environments by just clicking on the portal. The bug that happens, I'll show you, I'll change the code from this example back. I'll put here the latest version, 1.0.4, and I'll just reload the example and show you the bug, so that if you encounter this, then you know what's happening and you can change, you can correct things. So the bug is on the latest version of A-Frame. When we add a portal, you already noticed the bug already happened. So you can actually click outside the portal and it will take you through the portal. So that's the bug. In the latest version, the portal actually has a hidden surface that's much larger than this small circle. So you can just click outside and it will take you through the portal, and it shouldn't. Okay. So if that happens, one solution is just to use an earlier version that doesn't have this bug, 0.8.2. Or we'll see in a minute, we can give portals our own visual representations. If we do that, then the bug doesn't happen, and so we're okay. So just to make sure that so you understood what was happening. So actually, this is the source code for that example, and you can see here, for example, that file portal01 has a link, has a portal to the file portal02 with the title go to second environment, and this file portal02 is very similar, but it has a portal that allows you to go back to portal01. Okay, so we need, when we use portals, we typically use several HTML files, each one with a different kind of 3D scene. One thing that you probably noticed is that we need something to click on the portal. And so we need something to aim at the portal. Right now I'm on a desktop, so I could use my mouse cursor, but it actually right now it's not working. But if users are experiencing this environment through a headset, then they need something to aim. They don't have a mouse. And the way to do that is to provide what's called a cursor in A-Frame, which is actually this small circle that you see here in the exact center of the screen. We can place a cursor, and that gives users something that they can use to aim at things. In our case, for now, they can aim at the portal and then go through the portal. They can click on that portal. For us to show that cursor, we need to add the following to our scene. So we need to explicitly add a camera object and inside the camera a cursor object. So the camera actually is something that represents the position of the user, the user's perspective, and A-Frame automatically adds a camera if we don't. But in this case, because we want to add a cursor inside the camera, then we need to do things ourselves. So we just need to add these lines of text typically at the bottom of our scene. So if you look at the source code for that first example, you will see here, so we have our scene with with a link, the portal, and several boxes and a plane. And just before we close the scene, we have this A camera closed here, and inside the camera we have the cursor. So this is just that circular thing in the middle of the screen. One thing that we usually want to do when we have a portal, it's usually nice to explain, to try to convey to the user what he will see on the other side of the portal, without him having to go through the portal to see what's on the other side. So of course we can do that partially with the text, with the title of the portal, and that we can say something here about the environment that is on the other side. But a better approach is to use a picture of the target environment. So we can give a visual cue to the user about what to expect on the other side. And the thing to do that, we just need to add an attribute called image to our portal, to the A-link element. And as we saw already with other images that we used for textures, we usually define that image in the assets. We give it an ID, and then we can use that ID on the image attribute for the portal. So for example, I'll show you this third example in this chapter. I'll open this in a new tab so it's bigger, easier to see. So you see that we have now a different environment. I'm using the environments component with two portals to different locations. But now we can see kind of a preview of where we will go when we jump through the portal. So I'm going to click on this portal. And now I'm at that target environment. And the same for the other portal. So I can see, if I click here, I'll go to that Tron-like environment. If I click here, I'll go to this Egypt-like environment. And I can go back to the first. So in this example, there are actually 3 different HTML files with different environments. And so in the portals, we added an image that represents the target environments where we will be taken. So to do this, we need to add this image attribute, and we need to be careful with the format of the image. So this image, I'm going to show you here, or maybe the source code for one of these examples. So I'll show you the source code for this example. And so you see here that we have the images in the assets. And the IDs, notice the IDs, by the way, so I'm using these names so that it's easier for us to understand what the image refers to. So in this case, this image is the preview for the portal 3. And if we open this image in our browser, just so that you can see the type of image, you notice that this is actually a 360 image. This is a 360 image of the target environment. So how do we do this? How do we take 360 images of an environment that we created ourselves? So we need a 360 image of a scene that we created. Actually, the way to do that is in A-frame is real easy. So what I did in these examples was I created each of the 3 scenes that is needed for this set of environments that are connected through portals. So I created the scenes and then I took a screenshot of each one of them. And the way to do that is by pressing these shortcut keys in your keyboard. So if you enter an A-frame scene, if you preview a scene and then hit on your keyboard Control, Shift, Alt, and S at the same time, it will download a 360 picture of that scene from the perspective that you were when you took the screenshot. So I'll show you here an example of that. So I'm opening again this example. Let's, for example, enter this one with the trees. And we can move anywhere we want. And to take the picture, you should probably take a picture where you don't see the portals. Otherwise, the picture inside that portal will show more portals and that might be confusing. So let's say you like, I'm approaching just the trees. Let's say you like this perspective and we want to take a screenshot of this perspective, a 360 screenshot. We just need to hit those keys. So Control, Shift, Alt, and S. This is hard to remember. I don't remember this, so I always go back to the reference. So Control, Shift, Alt, and S. Control, Shift, Alt, S. And it might take a few seconds because it's a big picture, but the browser should download it automatically. So I'm going to show you the picture that my browser downloaded. Okay, so see, notice that this is a 360 photo. So the portals will, obviously they will appear, but they are actually in the back. So because our perspective was near and looking into the trees, so the portals were left behind us. So now we could just upload this picture to Glitch Assets, just like you already did, I think, with one of the examples earlier on. So this is a 360 photo that you can use as a texture, for example, in the sky. But for us, we want to use this for the portals only. Okay, so really easy. Download a screenshot of your scene and then upload it and then add the image in the assets and then the image attribute referring to that picture that you just uploaded through the assets. Okay, so this gives a nice, this is actually a nice representation for portals. Because if you noticed, if you open this in your own computer and you move around, you'll see that the image inside the portal is not static. So you see different perspective of the portal itself, of what's behind the portal, and this is, I think it's a nice visual effect. Now another thing that we want to do, and this is the last thing to know about portals for now, is how to change the visual appearance of the link. So we have this default visuals, but you may find that this is not good enough for you. So you may not like this circular perspective, this circular representation, even though it has that 360 photo inside of it, it's still a bidimensional thing. So you may not like that representation. And we can change that. So we can use actually any 3D object as a representation for our portals. And basically to do that, what we need to do is two things. The first is to add this attribute to the link. So we need to add an attribute called link. This is not a mistake, it's it's like this. So the attribute has the same name as the element. That's okay, it's how a frame works. And the value for that link attribute, notice that we are actually setting a property that is called visual aspect enabled, and we're saying false. So basically we are disabling the default visual representation of the link. And this is the first part. The second part is we need to give it a new representation. The second part is very easy. So we just need to put a 3D object inside the link. So notice here in this example, we have the link, the opening tag here with all the attributes, and the close tag is here. And inside, so inside the link element, we have a sphere. So the sphere will be the visual representation for that link. Instead of being that circular thing with a text, it will be a sphere. And we can texture a sphere however we like it. We can give it a solid color. We can do wherever we want. We could actually use more than one 3D object. So we could use as the visual representation for a link, a complex object made up by multiple simpler 3D objects. So in this example here, in this last example, I just show you 3 links with different visual representations. So on the right is the default, but then on the middle you see a link which is actually made up of a box. And then on the left, a link which is made up by a sphere. And of course, the box, I've used the same texture on the box as I used on the sphere. And of course, because this was a 360 photo, it doesn't look very well on the box, doesn't make much sense. But on the sphere, it looks nice. So actually, this is a 360 photo. You are supposed to watch the photo from the inside, but when we see it from the outside, it also looks okay. So if we click on any of these, I'm going to click on one just to show you, we go through the portal, just as we would with the default portal. Okay, so really easy way to change what a link looks like, what a portal looks like.